Sunday morning, your season is over list, our weekly recap of everything that was in college football. Yep, and what a great week it was, especially if you're a Georgia fan. What a great week. But, you know, I love college football, love watching these games, but like I said every week, unfortunately, half the teams that play every week have to lose, and I'm here to remind you of who those losers are. We're going to highlight 4 teams for your season is over today. Obviously, more than 4 teams a week lose, and honestly, more than 4 teams a week season comes to an end. But focus on 4, and then I'll mention briefly and talk a little bit about a bunch more teams after we highlight those 4. Up first, Central Florida. How happy is everybody about this? We don't have to hear this crybaby routine for the rest of the year now about Central Florida and how they should be in a playoff and how they can go toe-to-toe with anybody in America and this and that. Everything I've said about UCF for the last 2 years got proven true yesterday. Yes, UCF is a really good team, very talented, very well coached, very athletic, and can be a problem for a lot of teams, even some of the really, really good teams. When they have 35 days to prepare and they only have to play 1, that's the issue, Central Florida. This is what people have been telling you for 2 years. If you don't know, Central Florida just got done playing 2 back-to-back games against Power 5 teams. Last week at home against Stanford, this week on the road at Pitt. 2 average to below average, honestly, Power 5 teams. Stanford is a terrible team this year. Pitt is every other ACC team not named Clemson. They're a 6, 7, or 8 win team, depending on how the cookie crumbles against those other 10 teams in the ACC who are also garbage, right? You blow Stanford out at home, and then we get the, we told you so routine from Central Florida. But what happens? The following week, you got to go on the road and play the second of back-to-back Power 5 games, and you didn't show up. You got absolutely drugged the first half of this game. You were down 21-0. Miracle comeback to take a lead 24-21, but you couldn't hang on, and you let, like I said, a not very good Pitt team beat you. This is the problem with people who want Central Florida in a playoff. Yes, given 30 or 35 days to prepare, Central Florida can compete and potentially beat a lot of the top 10 or 15 teams in America, a lot of them. But they cannot do it week in and week out, which is what you have to do in the Power 5 in order to be a legitimate team at the end of the season with playoff hopes or chances. And it's not like Central Florida had to play 2 really good Power 5 teams back to back. Again, Stanford and Pitt. But this is what would happen. Take Central Florida out of where they're at and put them in any of the 5 major conferences, and this is what you would get. This is what you would get. You would get a UCF team who would do okay. They would not run the table. It just wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't happen. We use the SEC as an example since I'm a Georgia fan. Put them in the East if you want, since that's the weaker of the 2 divisions this year. Pick any 4 teams in the SEC East. Any 4. What are they, 2-2? I mean, who are you going to put them against? Vandy, Tennessee, let's say they beat those 2. Those are the 2 worst. Now put them against 2 middle-of-the-road teams in the East. Missouri and Kentucky. They probably lose both of those games. Again, if they play those games 4 weeks in a row, all right? Let's say you play at Tennessee and home against Vandy, and then at Missouri and home against Kentucky. You're going 2-2. And that's what we saw yesterday when you went on the road and couldn't beat a terrible Pitt team when you had to play 2 Power 5 teams in back-to-back weeks. So Central Florida, your season is over. I honestly don't even think you deserve a New Year's Six bowl at this point. I honestly don't. I think you should just get some other bowl this year and move aside and let some of these bigger big boy schools have the spot in that New Year's Six. I don't know what will end up happening. I have a feeling that is what will end up happening. But your season is over, and we don't have to listen to this crap about UCF anymore and how they should be a playoff team and how they can go toe-to-toe with Alabama or Clemson or Ohio State or Georgia or Oklahoma. No one cares what you can do in 1 game on 35 days. Notice, again, it's you're not earning the right to get that opportunity is the point, okay? You're not playing quality opponents week in and week out like you have to do in Power 5 conferences. You're just not. I'm sorry. We're done hearing about you. This will be the last time we have to talk about UCF for a while. And I, for one, am happy about it. Speaking of group of 5 teams whose season came to an end yesterday, Notre Dame Yep, that's right. Notre Dame is a group of five team, a glorified group of five team, but a group of five team nonetheless. You're not in a conference. That's your own decision and your own fault. You got a million excuses of why that is. Reality showing up at your door today, though. Guess what, Notre Dame? You're going 11-1 this year, and you're not getting into playoffs. Sorry, hate to tell you. Forget about these announcers trying to suck you off last night, saying, "Oh, Notre Dame tried hard in this game. I think they still have a chance at the playoffs." No, you don't. You choose not to be in a conference because you think you're better than everybody else. You think you don't need it. In reality, you're just trying to dodge a 13th game against what, generally speaking, would be a pretty good team. That's all you're trying to do. That's it. If you were in the Big Ten, even if you didn't have to play Ohio State or Wisconsin during the regular season, you'd have to play one of them in the Big Ten title game. If you were in the SEC, you'd have to play either Georgia or Alabama or LSU in the SEC title game. If you're in the Pac-12, you'd have to play Clemson or maybe Virginia or whoever comes out of the garbage can division of the ACC. If you're in the Big 12, you'd have to play either Texas or Oklahoma in the Big 12 title game. Pac-12, Washington, Oregon, whoever comes out of that garbage can league. I don't know. But point is, these are decisions that you make. You have to live with the consequences, okay? Reap the whirlwind, Domer. Shove a potato down your mouth at the end of this season when you're crying about not getting into the playoffs, And the news just gets worse from there. You will make a New Year's Six bowl and you'll go out and you'll get humiliated because that's just what you do. That's just what you do. You don't show up in those New Year's Six bowls and the big bowl games and the playoffs and BCS games. It's just been proven. You've lost 8 in a row by an average of 26 points a game when those games come around at the end of the year. So you might be better off losing another game so that you don't have to get humiliated in the New Year's Six bowl. I don't know. But your season is over. You're not making the playoffs, period. And again, this is your own fault. Your own fault. You make these decisions. You look around and you say, which conference looks like the worst? Okay, the ACC. Okay, yeah, we'll play 5 ACC games a year, and we'll join the ACC in basketball, but not football. We don't want to play that 13th game. You reap what you sow. You're not making the playoffs, period. I had you at 10-2 in my preseason prediction. You'll go 11-1, partly because you're better than I thought you were, and partly because Michigan is an absolute failure of a football program and just an abject disaster in general. And I had you losing on the road in the Big House. Nothing I saw yesterday makes me think that's going to happen. More on Michigan in a minute, but you'll probably win that game. You'll go 11-1. You are a good team. You're better than Uncle Lou thought you were. And as far as wrapping up my thoughts on yesterday's game, I thought I gave Notre Dame pretty good credit in the video yesterday. Yeah, I made some jokes at the end. Breaking news, that's what I do. Listen, if I spend months and months and months trolling Notre Dame like I did, and Georgia loses, every single one of you are going to come to the comment section and troll me. So guess what happens when Georgia wins? I get to come on and make jokes and troll you. That's just the way this works. The difference is you don't have to show back up when you lose, and a lot of you didn't. Just like I told you wouldn't. If Georgia loses, I do show up. I do take my medicine and eat my crow. So when Georgia wins, I get to come on here and laugh at you. And that's what I'm doing. But you were better than I thought you were. I thought that was part of what kept the game close and interesting yesterday. The other part of it, though, and we just have to be real, Georgia's game plan in the first half of this game was one of the most idiotic I've seen. And I've seen a lot of dumb Georgia game plans in my lifetime. Notre Dame can't stop the run all year, so we come out and start throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage a bunch of times. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Fromm was 11 of 12 in the first half for 55 yards. That's 5 yards per completion. How do you complete 11 passes with an average of 5 yards? You throw them all behind the line of scrimmage. Swing passes, screen passes, hitch passes to the wide receiver, bubble screen to the wide receiver. Multiple crossing routes completed behind the line of scrimmage. How does a wide receiver run a crossing route 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage? We were inventing new ways to throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage. It made no sense. Halfway through the second quarter, DeAndre Swift had 2 carries. All of Georgia's running backs combined halfway through the second quarter had 3 carries. It made no sense. It made no sense at all. Notre Dame's tight end gave us a lot of trouble, especially in the first half. I think in the second half we held him to just 1 catch, but in the first half he was trouble. We couldn't figure out a way to slow him down, much less stop him. He was trouble for us in the first half. But let's just be real about it. Georgia's defense completely dominated Notre Dame for the entirety of this game. Yeah, Notre Dame scored 1 touchdown in the first half. That was on a fumbled punt. If anybody didn't watch the game, I don't know. You all watched it. We know you did. But Georgia fumbled a punt on its own 9-yard line. So Notre Dame's only touchdown drive in the first half was an 9-yard drive, and then they had a field goal. And then they didn't score another touchdown until basically the game was almost over in the fourth quarter. Kirby Smart kicking the field goal there on 4th and half a yard. One of the dumbest coaching decisions, and that's saying something because, and this is troubling to me. And I love Kirby Smart. He's starting to develop a bad habit of making really, really bad decisions at really, really bad times, late in tight games, or just in tight games in general. If you go back to the SEC championship game last year, one of the complaints about Kirby is that he's too conservative. So what does he do? Alabama's down to its second-string quarterback, Jalen Hurts. We're up by 6 points or something, a touchdown, whatever it was. Maybe the game was tied, whatever it was. We have the ball on midfield, 4th and 7, not much time left. You have an opportunity to punt the ball there, pin Alabama deep, maybe within the zone 10 or something like that. Make them go the length of the field. A field goal did them no good. They needed a touchdown. Forced them to drive the length of the field with a backup quarterback to try to win the game. That was what you should have done. But you go for a fake punt. It made no sense. People clown you for being so conservative, and then you get aggressive at the worst possible time in the SEC championship game. And then yesterday, when you needed to be aggressive, you had an opportunity to put the game away. There was 4 minutes left in that game. Georgia was up. We were on about the Notre Dame 30-yard line. We had just drove down the field. Notre Dame could not stop us running the ball. We were pushing their line off the ball. This is when Notre Dame was faking all those injuries because they were wore out and didn't want to use their last time out, which is embarrassing. And Notre Dame fans should be absolutely ashamed and embarrassed about those players faking injuries. Players get hurt in college football for real. It's a dangerous game. And to have players out there so obviously faking injury just to stop the game because they're wore out, that is absolutely embarrassing. And if I was a Notre Dame fan, I would be calling that out. That is embarrassing. But anyway, 4th and less than half a yard. Half a yard ices that game because Notre Dame's only got 1 timeout left. I mean, you're going to at least run another 2 to 3 minutes off the clock, even if you don't get another first down. Plus, you might even score after that. You kicked the field goal there, just way too conservative, and it almost came back to bite us. Because we kick off after that, go into a soft shell prevent defense, let Notre Dame go right down the field and score. Then they kick off to us. We can't even get a first down. We punt it back to, it just got way too close at the end, and that was all Kirby's fault. He's got to stop doing that. But anyway, Notre Dame, I really appreciate you guys trying, but your season is over. What else? The entire Pac-12, your season is over. My God almighty. Utah finds a way to lose to Southern Cal. Southern Cal was down to their 3rd-string quarterback. Starting quarterback goes down a few weeks ago. Week 1, I think it was, JT Daniel. Backup quarterback comes in, plays a couple of games, looks okay. He goes down against Utah yesterday, and they still beat you with their 3rd-string, 30-23 or something? Utah was hovering around the top 10. People bought into it. Jesus. And Washington State. We know how bad UCLA's offense is under Chip Kelly. It's just absolutely abysmal, right? They haven't scored more than 14 points offensively all year. What did they win, 2 or 3 games last year? They look terrible this year, one of the worst teams in America. No offense at all. They're playing Washington State, a team that can score 100 points almost at will. And what happens? Washington State is up 49-17 against UCLA, a team with no offense. You turn that game off, this game's over. Hell, UCLA couldn't score 49 points in a month's worth of games. UCLA comes back and wins this game 67-63. 29 points UCLA scored in the 4th quarter. And Washington State does this every year. Mike Leach, Jim Harbaugh, Dan Mullen. These people keep trying to convince you that those 3 people are elite coaches. Both of them have been in the Power 5 for years and years and years and years at multiple teams and they don't have a single division title between the 3 of them. some point you got to win something. So Utah and Washington State were the Pac-12's best hope at going undefeated. There is another undefeated team in the Pac-12, Cal, but let's be real, they're not any good. In fact, all of these teams, Washington State and Utah, and even the one-loss teams, Oregon and Washington, were all ranked ahead of Cal, even though Cal was undefeated, because people know Cal's not that good. How do we know? Well, you barely beat Ole Miss yesterday, and Ole Miss is one of the worst teams in the SEC. Barely beat them, but you did beat them. Weird ending to that game, too. But Pac-12, don't try to tell us Cal's running the table. And the bad news is, don't try to tell us a one-loss team is getting in, because it's not, because the reputation of the Pac-12 is just in the toilet. So a one-loss Pac-12 team is just not getting in. A one-loss Pac-12 champion is going. The SEC would get two teams in. Like, let's say there's a one-loss. Remember the Alabama scenario from 2017, where Alabama had one loss in the regular season, and it cost them the division, so they didn't even have to play in the conference championship game, but they still got into the playoff. That could happen again this year in the SEC. You could have a one-loss SEC team that doesn't even win its division. They would get in over a one-loss Pac-12 conference champ. They just would. So entire Pac-12 season over. And Michigan. I'm completely done. I will never. My God, Michigan is absolutely horrible. Jim Harbaugh is an abject failure and a disaster of a head coach. There's no reason now for Michigan to even consider keeping this guy. I don't know anything about his buyout or anything like that, but his record against good teams is pitiful. His record away from Ann Arbor is pitiful. He can't beat Ohio State. He's never won a division. Blown out yesterday by Wisconsin. Absolutely unacceptable. Michigan is a dumpster fire team. They're impossible to watch. Their offense is just pitiful. It is just epic level bad. Historically bad. Jonathan Taylor, 200 yards, 8.8 yards per carry. Didn't even play most of the game because he didn't have to. Why? It's just Michigan. That's why. You guys are terrible, terrible. And Michigan ain't going in my top 10 ever again. I'm officially done. 3 years in a row. Uncle Lou has fell for the banana in the tailpipe routine when it comes to Michigan. Never again. Michigan can be 11-0 next year heading into that Ohio State game. They won't be anywhere near my top 10. Nope, you'll have to beat Ohio State and go 12-0 to get in Uncle Lou's top 10. I'm not doing it again. I'm sorry. Yeah, never again. In fact, I shouldn't even waste any more time on this channel talking about Michigan, because I have hyped Michigan up more than their own fans have over the last 2 or 3 years, and they continually crap the bed. Just embarrassing. Michigan, your season is over. And the sooner you figure out that Harbaugh's coaching career is over, the better off you'll be. What a failure Jim Harbaugh is. I'm disgusted with that. Disgusted. So those four, every season is over. UCF, Notre Dame, Michigan, and the entire Pac-12. We'll see you next year. I don't know what to tell you. Who else lost yesterday but didn't quite make the top four? North Carolina lost to App State. Is App State the best group of five team? I don't know. Same North Carolina that beat Miami. More on them in a minute. TCU, you lost to SMU. Some people saw that coming. I ain't gonna say no names, though. Arizona State lost to Colorado. Shout out to Mel Tucker, man. 3-1 at Colorado. Off to a good start out there. Neither one of those teams are elite, Colorado or Arizona State, but I wanted to mention Mel Tucker there. So Arizona State, sorry for your loss in that. Texas A&M, you lose to Auburn 28-20. Texas A&M's got no offense. Man, people ask you all the time, man, which games were you this year, Lou? I kept saying Texas A&M game in November, late in the year. We haven't played them before. That game don't worry me now. Texas A&M's got no offense at all, none. Kellen Mond looks like he's regressed this year. He just looks lost most times. They've got no running game at all. Their defense is okay, but offensively they're just miles away from mattering. And Tennessee, 34-3. Tennessee's football program is officially dead. We hound Tennessee fans the last 10 years or whatever for the whole next year thing. Listen to me, Tennessee fan. There is no next year, okay? There's only this year over and over and over again. I'm sorry. You've got nothing to look forward to if you're a Tennessee football fan. Nothing. Your upperclassmen are terrible. You don't have enough young talent on the team to get you excited for next year. You're one of the worst coach teams in the SEC. Your offense is non-existent. None of your quarterbacks are any good, including the one you keep trotting out there to start, Guantanamo Bay. He's terrible. He is terrible. Your offensive line is one of the worst in the SEC. Your defensive line can't stop anybody. It's just there's no reason to be excited for anything coming soon if you're a Tennessee Vol football fan. You're just not. It took you 10 years to get this bad. It's liable to take you 10 years to dig out of it. I'm sorry. And you're not firing Jeremy Pruitt, so shut up about that too. You can't afford it. Plus, coaching hires every 3 or 4 years is part of the reason you're in this mess now. Garantano's had 3 different offensive coordinators in 3 years at Tennessee. You're firing coaches every 3 or 4 years. I mean, you've had 5 coaches in the last 11 or 12 years, going back to 2007, right? Phil Fulmer, Lane Kiffin, Derek Dooley, Lyle, Butch Jones, and now Jerome Pruitt. You're not firing him. Plus, who would take the job? No one. There was a comment on my channel this morning that said Tennessee should hire Peyton Manning. It would really help with recruiting and galvanize the fan. But hire someone who's never coached at any level. I mean, this is part of the problem. If the fans thinking they run the program, you could have Greg Schiano. Fans said no. Administration caves in. 9 people turn the job down. You get stuck with Jeremy Pruitt. You guys buy into the lie that that's who Phil Fulmer wanted the whole time. All those other guys that turned it down, that was under the previous administration. When Phil Fulmer came in, that was the only one he offered a job to. That's who he wanted. No one wanted Jeremy Pruitt for a reason, okay? And everybody else already turned the Tennessee job down. That's why you have Jeremy Pruitt. Not because that was Fulmer's guy. No, because no one else would take the job. It was Pruitt or nobody, okay? You guys are just... I felt real bad for y'all at the beginning of the year, but then you go out and you beat something called Chattanooga, and you're all in the comment section beating your chest about going down and beating Florida, and I already know, in the offseason, you're going to ramp yourselves right back up again. It's just, you got nothing to look forward to. I'm sorry. You don't. Some teams won, but didn't look too good. Virginia over Old Dominion. What is it with Virginia teams at Old Dominion? 28-17? I mean, did you really have a letdown after a Florida State win? That's not a good win. Why would you have a letdown after that? But you did. You didn't look good. Miami beat Central Michigan 17-12. 17 you scored on Central Michigan. How bad is that? Well, we talked about Wisconsin a minute ago, right? They scored 61 points on Central Michigan. That's how far you are away, Miami, from mattering. No offense at all. Thanks for Lawrence Cager, though. Man, Lawrence Cager had a great game yesterday for my Dogs. He'd be the best player on Miami's team, period. He'd also be the smartest. How do I know that? He left. He got out of there. He came to a winning program, Georgia. But thanks for Lawrence Cager, man. You guys really could use him because you've got absolutely nothing on offense. You're a pitiful team. I'm sorry. I don't know if that's news to you or not, but you are. Wait a minute. How you give up 38 points to Vandy? LSU, man. What the biggest case of overcorrection, oversteering, whatever you want to call it, in history here with LSU. What has everybody been saying about LSU for the last 7 or 8 years? Man, LSU's defense is legit, loaded with NFL talent. Played great against Alabama last year, holding them to 29. But, when the offense couldn't even get a first down, if LSU could ever get a quarterback and an offense, man, to go along with that defense. Listen, when people were talking about LSU getting an offense, it was in addition to your defense, not instead of a defense. You're the Oklahoma of the SEC. And then LSU fan told me yesterday, oh, you keep saying that, but Oklahoma's made the playoffs 3 years in a row. Yeah, Oklahoma's the Oklahoma of the Big 12, though. You're the Oklahoma of the SEC, though. Okay? In order for LSU to make the playoff, they have to beat teams with real defenses. It won't happen. Your defense is awful. Okay? It's not that they didn't have a bad game. Your defense isn't any good. You gave up 38 points twice already this year. We're in September. Listen, Joe Burrow is amazing. You bring this guy in from the Saints, it's Joe Brady, whatever it is, revamp your passing game. You got no running game. That's completely disappeared. You so overcorrected here. You so overcorrected. You went from having a really good running game, NFL running backs, playmakers at wide receiver, but no one to get them the ball, and an elite defense filled with NFL talent that was one of the best in America every single year, to no running game, no defense. but a quarterback that can throw for 600 yards a game and score 50 or 60 points. We've seen that before from other teams, and you're going to have the same result, LSU. LSU's talking about beating Alabama. I have breaking news. Alabama can score points too. I don't know if you know that. I'm not sure if you're aware, okay? They scored 29 points on you last year. Ask yourself if you think your defense this year is as good as it was last year. Ask yourself that question. They'll score 49 on you this year. You won't score 49 on them, okay? You better do something about that defense. I understand that it's been a long time since you had a legitimate offense and you guys are excited about it, okay? But open your eyes, okay? You cannot win in the SEC playing Big 12 football. You can't. You won't. So if you guys really, I don't like Alabama. Hell, for all I care, you can beat them 100-0. It wouldn't make me mad. But you better wake up and understand something here, okay? You're not going to score 60-something points on Alabama or Auburn. That's for sure. That's for sure. So you better figure out a way to slow some of these teams down. You better get back to remembering that defense matters in the SEC, okay? Because what you're doing right now is going to get you the same end result that no offense but a good defense had you in years past, which is not winning the division and belly dragging yourself into a New Year's Six bowl. That's my warning to LSU. Make whatever excuses you want. I don't know what else to tell you. Auburn 28-20. You got no offense, Auburn. Bo Nix is a terrible quarterback. He's barely completing 50% of his passes. Breaking news, he was terrible again yesterday. What did he do yesterday? Hope I wrote it down. 12 of 20. 100 yards. QBR of 40. Guess what else, too? What if I told you that Auburn has one running back, and that's all they're using, and they're running him into the ground? Groundhog Day, that's what you would say. Yes. Remember Cam Petaway? Remember Kerryon Johnson? Yeah, me too. Great running backs in September and October. In November, they couldn't even get off the shitter. And you're getting ready to do the same thing about Boobie Whitlow. The bad news is Boobie Whitlow's not even good to start with. Boobie Whitlow's not even good in September and October. So what do you think's going to happen in November when he can't get out of bed? Because you're wearing him out. Again yesterday, 18 carries. The next running back on the team had 6. What are you doing? What are you doing? Bo Nix was actually your second leading rusher. Boobie Whitlow, 18 carries, 67 yards, 3.7 a carry, and 1 touchdown. Next running back, 6 carries, 14 yards, 2.2 yards per carry. Bo Nix, 12 carries, 38 yards, 2.2 yards a carry. Garbage. Garbage. You better hand the ball off to Swartz on a whole bunch of them jet sweeps if you want to have any meaningful rushing stats if you're Auburn, because y'all can't run the ball to save your life. Bo Nix can't throw the ball. I don't know what's going on with Auburn's offense. It's absolutely terrible. Now, they've got one of the best defensive front. No, they've got the best defensive front in all of college football. And that's going to take them, that'll take them to a certain point. It's hard to move the ball consistently on that Auburn front four. I mean, that front four is absolutely the real deal. As bad as Auburn's offense is and all the stuff you can say about that, can't say anything bad about Auburn's defensive front. It's absolutely, it's bordering on unfair with all the talent they have along that defensive front. It's scary. But your offense is pitiful. It's just non-existent and piss poor. All right, who won yesterday and looked good? Clemson, 52-10. And guess what? Trevor Lawrence didn't have any interceptions. Amazing. What do you have, a touchdown or 2? Yeah. Threw for 94 yards? He was like 10 for 12 for 94 yards. That's Jake Fromm numbers. Yeah, good job. Trevor Lawrence is not on the Heisman list, is he? No, he's not. If anybody has Trevor Lawrence on a Heisman list right now, it's a stupid list. He hasn't done anything this year worthy of being considered for the Heisman. Nothing. If he shows up on a Heisman list now, people must be looking at last year because he was great last year. This year, we're still looking for last year's version of Trevor Lawrence. Probably not going to find him because Clemson's not allowed to juice up their players anymore because they got busted last year. Texas 36-30 over Oklahoma State. Yeah, that was a pretty good win. The Oklahoma State has had your number recently. I thought about putting you on the bad win list. That wasn't really a bad win. It was a good game. Oklahoma State had some chances there. They sort of shot themselves in the foot a lot, getting down close to the red zone and in the red zone and not being able to convert on a few key plays and things like that. But like I said, they've had your number for a while. So I'm going to give Texas a break here. That wasn't a bad one. That was a pretty good win for Texas. Let's give West Virginia some credit. I threw them in the toilet in the offseason. They're off to a 3-1 start. So they are going to make a bowl game probably, and I didn't think they would. So let's give them a little bit of credit. They're better, at least, than I thought they would be. Ohio State 76-5. If you're not paying attention to Ohio State, you better start. I'm just telling. I mean, I don't know where you've been. Well, I know where you've been. You've been reading box scores every Sunday morning and then asking me, who have they played, Lou? Does it 76-5? Did you not hear me? Justin Fields had 6 touchdowns in the second quarter. Not through the second quarter. Like, not the first quarter and second quarter combined. He had 6 touchdowns in the second quarter. Ohio State record. That would break a record at almost every school in America. 6 touchdowns in the second. He is on the Heisman list. He is on the high. He might be on the top of it, too. And their defense is for real. Who have they played? They gave up 5 points. God. You know, are you waiting on them to lose to Purdue or some mediocre team? I guess. I don't know. I mean, they won. You got people act like you forget they won. They win 12 or 13 games every single year. Yes, they haven't made it in the playoffs in a couple of years. They got shut out the last time they did make the playoffs. But you got to go back to like 2010 to find a season where they lost more than 2 games. I mean, Ohio State is the real deal. Michigan's in the toilet. How good is that Ohio State-Wisconsin game going to be, though? Man, that one's going to be serious. Coming up in a few weeks. That's going to be one hell of a game right there. That's when we'll find out which one of... I don't think you can tell who's better right now between Wisconsin and Ohio State. I'm just going to be honest. I think Wisconsin is vastly underrated still. Wisconsin should be a top 5 or 6 team in my mind. We'll see what the poll looks like. I don't know. But that's going to be a good game. Washington 45-14 over BYU. Eason, another day at the office, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Let's give Alabama credit. Most complete game they've played. Who have they played? Who played Southern Miss? This guy talking about Alabama look good. Southern Miss. Who have they played? It doesn't matter who they play. You have to watch the game. Nick Saban will tell you. Any coach will tell you. When you play these bad teams, you're playing to a standard, your own standard. You're not playing to Southern Miss. You're playing to your own standard. And let's be honest, Alabama has not played to its standard so far this year. I thought they did yesterday. They ran the ball well. Tua, of course, lit it up again. Their defense played really, really good, and their defense is going to get better as the season goes along. They've been catching some slack here, the Alabama defense, including from me, for good reason. You haven't been as dominant from the start as we've seen a lot of the Alabama defenses be over the last few years. This was the most complete game Alabama has played all year. Alabama looked better yesterday than they've looked all year, in my opinion. Let's give them some credit. Because when they don't look good, we point that out. So let's point it out when they do look good. They looked good yesterday. Florida 34-3. We'll give credit for a big win. But again, Florida and Auburn are the same team. Pretty good defenses with no offense at all. Florida can't run the ball. They're playing QB hokey pokey now with Emory Jones and Kyle Trask. I wonder how that's going to work out. I already know how it's going to work out. That doesn't work out. They've got some playmakers on the outside, but, issues at quarterback. They're getting hurt with injuries too. Georgia is too. I didn't even mention that. Top 2 corners are out. Didn't play yesterday. We're down 3 or 4 offensive linemen now. One of our starting defensive linemen went down in yesterday's game. We're getting hit with the injuries too. But, that's just part of college football. Everybody's got 85 scholarships, and that's why. Okay, injuries are just part of the game. So Georgia's off next week, which is, boy, our bye week couldn't come at a better time. We got to get some of these people healed up. But, Tennessee, Florida's a rivalry game. You went down there, you completely dominated them. So I'm not here to tell you you look bad or anything like that, but your offense ain't scaring nobody. I can tell you that now. You're still bragging about a win at Kentucky. Kentucky got beat by like 2 or 3 touchdowns yesterday by Mississippi State. It took a miracle for Florida to barely beat them, and Miami too. So Florida's not a very good team, but they're finding a way to win. And yesterday they blew out the worst team on planet Earth, Tennessee. Anyway, there you go. Who's the best teams in no particular order? Last week I left Clemson off, and people pointed out that was not intentional. I do this off the top of my head. But the best teams right now, the top tier teams I would consider with a legitimate shot at a national title right now: Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Wisconsin. I think that's a pretty good list. Am I leaving anybody out this time? I hope not, because I didn't have to read 100 comments about it. Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Clemson, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Oklahoma. That's got to be about it. Then you got a lot of really, really good teams that are in a tier under that. But those are the 6 teams I think right now with the best shot of making the playoffs and winning it. That's just how I feel. So cry about it, type about it. ever what you need to do. Man, those Notre Dame fans disappear like a fart in a windstorm. I knew it would happen, always does. The ones that are the loudest, in the comment section, those are the ones that you never see again when you lose. Listen, play a team like Notre Dame, we never play them. I spend months trolling them. Georgia wins. Of course I'm going to come on here and make the post-game video. What did you think I was going to do? Of course. But see, here's the thing. If Georgia loses, I have to come on. You guys flock to this channel if Georgia loses, and I show up right on time like I'm supposed to and eat my crow and do all that kind of stuff, and you guys love it. So you have to know then when Georgia wins, I'm gonna show up and do the opposite, and that's what I did last night. Sorry, it is what it is. Make some of you mad. But see, a lot of those Notre Dame fans with the type in the comment section, they don't show back. You'll never see them again. I'm not going to say their names, so they don't even deserve it. You know who they are. You won't see them again. So yeah, I spend that long trolling a fan base and talking that much trash about a game, and Georgia comes out and backs it up with a win. Yes, you get to see me on video after the game with the ha ha ha. You people, look, I have not forgotten 2015 and 2016. I was right here in 2015 and 2016. Yeah, now that Georgia's pretty good, I'm still on here. It's not like I showed up the day before Georgia went to the national title game a couple of years ago. So I've earned my stripes, Jack. Have a good morning.